So today we're going to be reading for the fire signs. That's going to be Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. I have this really nice smelling candied pumpkin candle that I'll be using to clear the space today. So, if you would, just relax. Allow the light of the flame to wash over you. You can take some deep breaths. If there's anything that you'd like to cover in the reading, just kind of let that rise to the forefront of your thoughts. Don't stress out about it. If you feel yourself becoming tense, just take some gentle, warm, deep breaths. And as you inhale, imagine that you are pulling in the divine white light of Source. And then as you exhale, just sigh out any of the tension, stress, or other negative emotions and vibrations that you no longer wish to hold on to. And it is important, remember, to replace that void. You don't want to just leave a void. You don't want to just exhale and let go of all those things and not replace them with positive energy. So just kind of keep that in your thoughts as well. So, decks that I will be using today. I will be using the Ethereal Visions Luna Edition deck. And I will also be using a deck of my own design. This is a circular deck that I made myself. This deck has 3 parts. The first part is all of the lunar mansions. They're not really in any specific order, but that's the first part I pulled out. The second part of the deck is the lunar phases. And the third part of the deck is some major arcana from the tarot as reimagined through my own vision. So we will be starting with the astrological sign of Aries. And if you would like, Aries, just continue to breathe deeply and relax. And I'm going to get all of these cards pulled out for you. So, how's everybody doing? You having a good week so far? Happy Lunar New Year to everyone out there. And I am doing slightly abbreviated version of the Celtic Cross because I will be talking a lot more about the other cards and integrating it all together. All right, Aries. Let's see what we have for you today. Well, so I will tell you that all of your cards came out reversed. That's something I don't usually see. That can mean that circumstances around you right now are unclear. And I'm just going to write down your timestamp, Aries. So, the first card that I got for you is the Wheel of Fortune. And indeed, that can be a card speaking to, oh, hi, Marcos. Thanks for coming by. It can speak to things being in the midst of a cycle. So things could be changing quite a bit. The markings on this card, we see the planet Jupiter. This is the letter Kaba, but it's also the number 20. And of course, I've called this card Genesis because it's about cycles. Now, the lunar cards that we have associated with this are very interesting. We have waning gibbous, so that shows that one cycle is closing up for you. This is a lot about cycles right now. Waning gibbous is the last little dregs of the moon's light before we see the new moon, which we are actually right on the day of the new moon. And that is why we're experiencing the Lunar New Year on some calendars. This new moon is in Aquarius. So here where we have the card of Al-Zubra, this is the tail of the lion. So this is the last part of the moon being in Leo. So that is when we're going to be seeing the full moon actually in about a couple weeks' time. So there could be a cycle right now that is closing up for you. And that when this full moon comes through, then we'll be seeing where all of these things start shifting forward. Excuse me. We did have a couple of planets that were retrograde and now are going direct. So Venus has gone direct. And Mercury will also be going direct soon. I think today or tomorrow or sometime this week. I don't have my astrological calendar right here in front of me, but I assure you it's sometime this week. So let's look at your cards, Aries. Here we're looking at the past. And we have the Four of Pentacles. And as I mentioned, all of the cards showed up reversed. So I'm going to take that as a collective sign rather than deal with it on a card by card basis. I'm going to take that as a collective sign that all of these energies are potential, but that what you have going on right now is a period where a lot of things are in transition. Some of your cycles are ending, and then new cycles are beginning. So, where we see this Four of Pentacles in the past, you could have put a lot of effort into conserving your resources. This could be money, but it's also time and energy and other such resources. Here in the current situation, we have the Page of Pentacles. So this is a potential job offer. And remember I said that this card, all the cards came out reversed. So you could be looking for a new job. You could be applying to jobs right now. This is crossed by the Queen of Swords. It's going to be important for you during this process to speak your truth, which is something that we aren't often encouraged to do while we are putting our resume out there. We're supposed to be showing people the quote unquote best version of ourselves. It's like Lionel Hutz used to say, there's the truth, and then there's the truth, right? The truth doesn't sell houses, Marge. Well, I think at this time it's going to be really important for you to really be putting as factual of information out there about yourself as possible, Aries, because in the long term, that's what's really going to benefit you. So down here in the Imam Silai, the Imam Silai is the card at the very bottom of the spread. So it is current energies, current environment, but these would be things that would directly lead to what we end up seeing in the midheaven. So I kind of imagine that the 12 houses are superimposed over my Celtic cross spread. And the card at the bottom is then right there at the cusp of the third and fourth houses. So this has a lot to do with origins of situations, and it has a lot to do with the foundations on which your future is going to be built. So we have the Nine of Cups there. And of course, the Nine of Cups is a great card. This is wish fulfillment. So if you are able to put yourself out there in a very honest and truthful way, it's going to promote wish fulfillment for you, Aries. This is very important. Very important. So, here in the future, we do have the Ten of Cups. And I'm not really reading reversals for your reading because they all came out reversed, which tells me that all of these are more to the speculative side of energies. So it might not be obvious that these things are going on around you. That's another thing I want to mention too. The Ten of Cups, doesn't matter what kind of relationship you're in, what kind of family unit you are a part of. This Ten of Cups is the progression of the Nine of Cups. And it also means that you will be experiencing fulfillment, emotional fulfillment, emotional satiety. This can also be the resolution of an emotional cycle, but it's kind of like a happily ever after resolution. It's probably not going to be like how we would see with the Ten of Swords, right? So let's look up here, finally, at the midheaven. We have the Nine of Wands. And it's interesting to me that we have these two very similar energies in the past and in the destiny positions. That really shows me, Aries, that there is a lot of volatility in your surroundings right now. But with this volatility is coming in the promise for growth and the promise for very good things. But once attained, you will have to guard these things to some extent. So if you have nothing to lose, you don't have anything to guard. But then once you attain things, wish fulfillment, and your desires, there is the potential there that you will need to protect these things a little more closely. But you have a history of doing that and doing it to good effect. So I think, Aries, that if you are able to ride the waves of this storm, that you'll come out on the other side much better for it. All right, so that is going to conclude the Aries reading for today. And now I'm just going to turn these cards over and we can move on to the fire sign of Leo. And Leo, if you would just breathe deeply and gently. And just allow any issues that you've been having that you want to address in the reading, allow those things to float up to the forefront of your thoughts. I also neglected to mention this earlier, but there is going to be this evening a members only live stream where we're going to do some card reading and I'm going to answer some questions and things like that. So if that's something that interests you, I'm going to be trying to do that on like a monthly basis for the members. I also have extended readings that are uploaded over there where I do crystal scrying about general energies for each element. All right, Leo, going to lay out some cards for you. And then I'm going to pull these cards. Interesting. We have some very interesting energies coming through for you, Leo. Let me just write down your timestamps. And the timestamps go down in the description once the live stream is ended. So what we have here, first of all, is Callisto. This is the Lover's card in this version of the deck. So this is like the number 7. This is Gemini. And of course, we have the golden apples for the fairest. And that would be Paris back there. And of course, some people kissing. So the Lover's card can be about romantic love. But it can also be about making choices based on certain criteria. And I did use the golden apples because we also have that tie-in between apples in Greek mythology and apples in the Bible, and using them for temptation. An apple a day, keeping your moral quandaries at bay. The next card we have here is Aldira. Now, Aldira is part of Gemini's constellation now. But under the system in which the lunar mansions were constructed, because they were basically constellations of their own, we're only correlating them to these constellations as a way of clarifying what stars are we talking about here, giving it context. But Aldira actually means the forearm, and it refers to a gigantic forearm of a lion that was part of some of the ancient constellation systems, because of course the constellations that we know today are heavily based on the Greek and Roman systems and somewhat on Babylonian systems as well. But there were many other ways of breaking up the stars into these pictographic type groups. Now, Aldira has to do with, of course, the forearm of the lion. So there's action. There's a certain amount of force behind it. It's a very active mansion. And it is kind of at the tail end of Gemini going into Cancer. So we have 2 Gemini correspondences here. And the third card that we have is the full moon. So this full moon in Gemini is not actually going to be occurring until Sagittarius season. So that would be like late November, early December sometime possibly. So it could have to do with a full moon in Gemini in the later part of this year. It could have to do with this full moon, especially because the next full moon that we will have is going to be in Leo. So even though this is a Gemini card, we are still talking about a lion. And it could be that there are energies around this that involve Geminis. So maybe you're a Leo moon, but you're a Gemini sun, or you have Gemini rising. I personally have my North Node in Gemini. So to me, this would speak to things related to my destiny and my purpose here on Earth, potentially. Here in the past, we have the 3 of Pentacles reversed. So there could have been a time in the past where you had a really good professional reputation, Perhaps you are working with others. And I think this would have been a group project which has now come to an end. Here in the current situation, we have the Ace of Pentacles, and it's reversed. So you could be out looking for jobs. You could be out looking for new streams of income. This card showing up in the reverse like this and in the current situation does let me know that the potential for this is around you somewhere, and that perhaps you just haven't quite grasped it yet, but it is within your reach. Crossing this, we have the Four of Swords. So it's a good time for you to take the opportunity to rest and to rejuvenate yourself. If there are things that you need to do to heal within, this is the perfect time to do that if you haven't been working on that already. Rather than getting worried about this, I don't see the Nine of Swords here anywhere. And the next card that I'm about to read for you does reinforce to me that there's not really any use in worrying too much about not having income at this very moment, if that is something that is a concern to you. Down here in the Imam Sili, so as I mentioned in the Aries reading, I like to imagine that there is a 12 houses wheel laid out over my Celtic cross spread. So down here at the bottom would be the cusp of the third and fourth houses, which is known as the Imam Sili. And this position has a lot to do with the factors in the current situation that are going to be the foundation of what occurs in the midheaven up here between the 9th and 10th houses, that has to do with your goal and destiny, so future events. And down here in the Imam Sili, we have the Five of Cups reversed. Now, unlike the Aries reading, you do have one upright card, and it is in the future. So, of all the places to have potential energies, I think that one is the best. This Five of Cups reversed, you are getting over some kind of disappointment. You could have had to let go of a lot of things, especially if you're making choices. It could have had to do with this situation, letting go of this, letting go of past achievements in order to make room for your future achievements. And this can be kind of a painful process. So don't diminish in your own mind the fact that it's okay to grieve things that are no longer a part of your life. Even if it seems silly, even if you don't actually miss them, right? I especially mean this in terms of like past jobs, but it can apply to a lot of different past situations that you will have to let go of in order to bring in and make room for new energies. Because the thing that I see next here for you, this is going to be the future position. And it is upright and it is in the future. So I like to mention sometimes, but this is true all the time, that nothing that I say in these readings is going to supersede the importance of your own free will, right? But where I see a card upright in the future position or in the midheaven position, this is more of a predestined energy, that there are a lot of different roads that are going to lead you to this 10 of Pentacles. This is legacy wealth. This is generational wealth. You can see the older man here with this younger gentleman and this dog, that this older gentleman is possibly going to leave all of his abundance to the younger generation here. Very nurturing. We do see these grapes up here, just a symbol of the pentacles and of fertility. And that could represent that he lives on a vineyard or something like that, where he is able to produce capital for himself that is enough to pass down to future generations. So I do see that in the future here for you, Leo. On the one hand, we do have this card about taking action. We do have the full moon showing up, the fullness of this energy, that there does perhaps need to be a choice made, but that there is also time at this juncture for rest. So there's going to be a bit of a balance there. Let's get into this final card. It's a very interesting one. I actually had a similar card come out in my reading this morning. I read for myself every morning, and I journal it. So, in the midheaven, in the reverse, we have this King of Wands showing up. As I mentioned before, the midheaven is more like your goal or your destiny. Now, the King of Wands can definitely represent your energy, that you're going to be a creative leader, that you lead through charisma. Your success comes through your sparkling personality. And because this card is showing up in the reverse, in the destiny position, the potential for this is there. The money will come regardless. But the potential for this is going to depend on you. And it's really going to depend on how you deal with getting over this disappointment. Do you deal with it graciously? Do you allow it to turn you bitter? Let's go back to this card for a moment. Because if you will remember the story, the apples were cast before Paris, or I guess rather it was one apple. There was another story about several golden apples that were used to distract a top female athlete from her pursuit. But we are talking here about the apple of discord cast by Aries, not Eros, that's the god of love. Aries is the goddess of chaos and strife. And so in this story, we had 3 competitors who all wanted the apple. And it was Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. And of course, inscribed upon the apple was the word Callisto, which means to the fairest. And Paris, who was a prince, but was out tending sheep for some reason, was expected to choose. Probably, that's like asking any teenage boy, who's the fairest? And of course, he picks Aphrodite. Why did I go off on this long-winded screed? Well, because you catch more flies with sugar. You can also catch a lot of flies with piles of horse manure. But I'm going to leave that up to you, Leo. this is going to conclude the Leo reading for this week. I'm sorry, my stomach keeps making these weird noises. We're going to move on now to the sign of Sagittarius. And I want to thank all of you for coming by today. It means a lot to me. So, Sagittarius, while I'm getting your cards ready to be dealt, if you would go ahead and just allow your concerns that you'd like to address in the reading to rise to the forefront of your thoughts. And just allow them to wait there patiently. If you find yourself getting a little agitated or stressed out thinking about them, just take some deep but gentle breaths. Inhale the divine white light of Source and just sigh out any tension or anxiety or any of the negative vibrations that are no longer serving you. And deal out these cards. This is a very strong fire sign reading. The other two readings were kind of vague, I think, and there was a lot of reversals and not very many major arcana, but Sagittarius, you have a lot of major arcana in your reading right now. So, that's very exciting for you. Oh, wow. Okay. You have gotten the Judgment card twice. So, we have this card, which is the Judgment card in this deck. I called it Crisis. This is Tau, and it also has a value of 300. This is a Pluto energy, but it's also a fire energy. And we're talking about transformation here. So because we're talking about Pluto, this can be scorpionic energy. There's definitely a lot of transformation involved in this. And we have Alzubana, which in our modern constellation system is part of Libra. But in the system in which the Arabic lunar mansions were created, these scales are actually considered like the horns of Scorpio, or probably like the pincers. So it's a very protective, not as protective as the stinger, but a very kind of a defensive energy. And we also have the new moon, which is the energy we are occupying at the time that I do this reading. So there's a lot going on in your reading so far, Sagittarius. And let me just write down your timestamp so I won't forget. Okay. And report some bots. Sorry. Okay. So Sagittarius, let's look here at the past. we have the World card. I really love the World card in this deck. Now, one thing about this version of the World card is we do not have the fixed signs depicted in the corners, but those would also be associated with this card. World card is Earth energy, but it is Saturnian correspondence. So Saturn is about things that are very established. It is a very slow moving energy, and thus why it would be associated with elemental Earth. And of course, that is why the World card would be associated with elemental Earth. So because this is a Saturnian card, it can also be associated with Capricorn or Aquarius. This card being in the upright and in the past position for you, Sagittarius, there could have been something that very recently came to a point of closure for you. This could be a long-term project that you had worked on. It could be a phase in your life. The World card in this case could even represent you moving out of one living situation and into like a house or something that would be much better for you. It could be getting a long-term career going or retiring from a long-term career. All of those are potentials for this World card in the upright. So because it's upright, we also know that it is going to be affecting the current environment. And what we have there is the Judgment card. And as I mentioned, that's Pluto. That is also fire elemental energy. And through Pluto has associations to scorpionic energies. But it marks somewhat of a regression because we're coming from this completion and now you're kind of taking a step backwards from that completion. All of this stuff should have been fully wrapped up when this occurred. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that in you, Sagittarius. I'm not trying to call fault with you. But we have to examine why this might be occurring because it has come up very strongly in your reading. Now, I do think there could be some defensiveness associated with this, that where we have the horns of Scorpio coming out, so a little extra oomph to that scorpionic energy connotation, that there's a fear for you of change. And so rather than embracing the Fool energy and beginning a brand new cycle, you are more inclined to retreat back into the energy of the Judgment card, which is certainly no less uncomfortable than that of the Fool. This is crossed by the Seven of Swords also. So the Seven of Swords energy, there could be a lot of subterfuge going on. There could be a lot of deceptions. This can even be self-deception, Sagittarius, that you might be telling yourself that it's much easier just to go back into this previous energy than it would be to start a brand new cycle. The Seven of Swords could be people around you actively deceiving you. Gosh, I am so sorry. I don't know why my body's making all these weird noises. I really do apologize. But that people around you could be actively trying to deceive you because maybe they don't want to find another roommate. Maybe it's an employer and they really want to be able to squeeze like more work out of you for less pay. People have all kinds of motivations for trying to hold you back. Somebody telling you you're not good enough for something, trying to get you to regress. So let's look at the energy of the MMCLI. The MMCLI, I imagine with my readings that the 12 houses are laid out over the Celtic cross. So down here, the MMCLI is the cusp between the third and fourth houses. And this represents origins of situations, and it represents the foundation upon which your midheaven position, which is the goal and destiny, all of those occurrences are going to be based on what happens in the MMCLI in the future. And the card that I have for you is fellow fire sign Leo's card, and it's showing up reversed. So this does show not so much a lack of strength per se on your part. This card does have to do with physical strength, but it also has to do with mental fortitude, has to do with your ability to persuade and control others, not necessarily through outright manipulation, but rather persuasion. There is a difference. There is a slight difference between persuasion and manipulation. Okay? And I just want to point that out here. So I don't know if you're the one who's taking part in the manipulation. I don't know if other people are taking advantage of you and you're not trusting yourself. You're not having inner strength. This card, it's interesting to me that this showed up and not your card, which is the Temperance card, because actually those two things could be read in very similar terms in this position. So because the Strength card specifically is coming out, we've already had the fixed energy of Scorpio come out quite vividly here. But in this case, we might have another fixed sign at play with Leo. So you might have more fixed sign energies in your chart. So whether you're Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising, I would just look at what other energies might be at play, because already we've got fixed sign energy with the world. We've got fixed sign energy with a lot of these scorpionic things over here. We've got fixed sign energy with the Strength card in the reverse down here. So there could be a Leo person who has persuaded you not to fully complete this cycle. Now, in the future, we do have an energy that's very good, and it's showing up in the upright. As I mentioned, Sagittarius, you have a lot of major arcana cards in your reading this week. So this could be a very determinate time for you, that depending on what you do now, it's really going to set you up for success or failure in the future. Now, when I do get cards in the future that are upright, I consider these to be much more predestined energies than when cards show up in the reverse. That means that the potential is there, but it's going to rely on what you do. When the cards show up in the upright like this, of course, nothing I say in a reading is going to supersede the importance of your free will, right? You can absolutely choose to do anything you want. But when the card shows up upright like this, it's a much more predestined energy than a potential energy. So the Chariot card is victory. It is also mobility. So that would mean that you would be moving forward. Although the Chariot card, the way that it's oriented, when I hold it up here, he is headed toward the future. But when he's laid out in the context of the Celtic cross, he's actually facing the past. So it might be in your best interest not to fully close out a cycle at this time. These are general readings, so it might be different for all of you. But these are things definitely to think about, and you are getting some very strong messages here. So I'm going to allow you to parse them out with your own discernment as far as what it is that you're going to need to do moving forward from here. Here in the midheaven, so this is going to be goal or destiny position in the reading. We do have the Page of Wands, and this is a very Sagittarian energy. The Page of Wands is earth of fire, so not totally immutable energy, but very youthful, very open to new ideas. Page of Wands can be enthusiasm. Page of Wands sometimes can be a tendency toward flings or one-night stands. So if these are kind of, if this relates to a romantic situation for you, you might have chosen to remain in a relationship despite really wanting to be single. And it might be in the future that you have a much more casual attitude towards dating. However, if this is about career, this Page of Wands, potential energy, because remember, it's going to be a potential because it's showing up reversed in the future. This is a very good enthusiastic energy with which to go into a new work situation, to go into your retirement potentially. Maybe it's time for you to go out and see the world, right? But it is also a very good energy to be coupling with this Chariot energy. We've got a lot of mobility. We've got a lot of fire energy. We have the grounding of earth, and we have victory. So, regardless of what you choose during this time, regardless of your actions during this time, the judgment might be put more on you than by you. And you will be achieving levels of victory and of mobility moving forward. All right.